Friends of the Family, Episode 2. The glowing, translucent avenues of the new Metropolis shopping pavilion hummed with the quiet energy of 1,000 quiet quantum portals. Massive holographic screens floated in the electric violet sky, displaying advertisements for the latest wristwatch models. To navigate the bustling shopping terraces, citizens merely tapped their metallic wristwatches, vanishing in brief flashes of soft neon light to materialize instantly outside their favorite digital boutiques. Walking down the main alabaster terrace was a large group of teenagers. Sarah Harrington's 3 children, Chloe, Ethan, and Lily, were walking alongside Jaxen, Keziah's teenage son. Despite the immense history of resentment and jealousy between their mothers, the teenagers generally tried to maintain a peaceful, polite dynamic when out in public. Joining them on this bright afternoon were Caleb and Zuri, a young teenage couple who were currently in a relationship. Caleb and Zuri were dedicated believers in Jesus Christ, possessing a deep sense of faith and polite respect that made them a calming presence for the group. They had actually met the Harrington family 15 years ago when they were just 7 or 8 years old at Jesus Christ Baptist Church, and now, as mid-teenagers, they remained close friends with the family. Walking a few paces behind the teenagers were Sarah Harrington and Keziah. The 2 women were still completely shaken from the supernatural encounter in the corporate office. They walked in a tense, uncomfortable truce, their eyes constantly darting around the crowded pavilion, utterly terrified that the uncoordinated, invisible entity would materialize once again. "It is great to see all of you together," Caleb said, his wristwatch flashing as he adjusted his neat silver jacket. "Zuri and I were just talking about how much has changed since those old days at Jesus Christ Baptist Church. The Metropolis looks totally futuristic now." "It really does," Zuri agreed, a bright, polite smile on her face as she walked hand in hand with Caleb. "But no matter how advanced the technology gets, keeping our faith grounded is what really matters. We always pray for your families to find total peace." Sarah and Keziah both offered stiff, anxious nods, completely distracted by their own internal panic. "Thank you, Zuri," Sarah murmured, her voice trembling slightly as she scanned the empty air above a decorative floating fountain. "Peace is exactly what we need right now." "Yeah, real peace," Keziah whispered, clutching her purse tightly. "The kind of peace where things stop falling out of the sky without warning." Jaxen turned around, raising an eyebrow at his mother. "Mom, you're doing that whisper panic thing again. Are your internal sensors still glitching from the office meeting? You look like you're anticipating a sudden weather anomaly." Before Keziah could answer, the neon fountain suddenly short-circuited. The water didn't splash. Instead, the physical gravity around the basin completely warped, and a loud, familiar, catastrophic thud rattled the alabaster tiles. Act 2. The Invisible Comedy Show. Out of absolutely nowhere, a giant, uncoordinated figure crashed directly through the center of a floating holographic advertisement, sending digital sparks flying across the terrace. Mr. Moose had arrived on Earth once again. He executed a spectacular, slow-motion tumble across the pavement, his massive white wings flapping frantically like a confused pelican, before landing squarely on his back right between Sarah and Keziah. Sarah let out a muffled gasp of pure, unadulterated horror, stumbling backward into a decorative pillar. Her face turned completely white, the sheer supernatural shock making her feel like she was living inside a literal suspense movie. Keziah froze completely, her hands flying over her mouth as she stared down at the clumsy legend. Mr. Moose sat up, his golden halo currently resting perfectly over his left eye like a monocle, while a single neon flower from the boutique next door was stuck directly into his white collar. He blinked heavily at the 2 terrified women, completely slurring his words with immense, rapid-fire energy. "Whoa up, clear the landing strip. The celestial coordinates on these watches are an absolute joke," Mr. Moose shouted, scrambling to his feet with a dramatic sway that caused him to lean entirely to the right, nearly tipping over a trash receptacle. He pulled at his robe with a grand flourish. "I tell ya, I get no respect. Absolutely no respect. I tried to take a high-tech shortcut through a digital portal, and I think I spent 10 minutes trapped inside an automated laundry cycle. My right wing is currently smelling like fresh lavender and static cling." The utter disrespect to a scholar. Chloe, Ethan, Lily, Jaxen, Caleb, and Zuri all stopped walking, turning around to look at the 2 women who were staring blankly at the empty pavement. Mrs. Harrington?" Caleb asked politely, his expression filled with genuine confusion. "Are you all right? You're standing in a defensive posture against the empty air." "She's fine, Caleb," Ethan sighed, looking deeply embarrassed. "Mom and Keziah have been seeing things all day. They think there's a giant entity hovering around us." "There is an entity!" Keziah hissed, pointing a trembling finger at the space right in front of Caleb's shoes. "He's right there. He's doing a weird, uncoordinated tap dance on the tiles. In reality, Mr. Moose was indeed performing a bizarre, high-kicking march, completely oblivious to the fact that the teenagers couldn't see or hear him. He marched directly up to Caleb, peered into his face from 2 inches away, and delivered a booming one-liner. "Hey kid, nice silver jacket. I went to a high-tech tailor in the city district yesterday. I told him, hey, I want a futuristic suit that makes me look incredibly sharp. The guy looks at my wings, checks my posture, and says, George, the only thing that can make you look sharp is a cactus costume. No respect at all. The guy charged me 50 digital tokens for a piece of advice I could have gotten from a prickly plant." Sarah covered her face with her hands, letting out a desperate groan. Why is he like this? Why does he have so many stories about bad customer service? Act 3. The Forced Partnership. Zuri looked at Sarah and Keziah with a gentle, compassionate expression, completely unaware that Mr. Moose was currently trying to balance a decorative paper cup on top of his golden halo right next to her shoulder. "We should pray for them right now," Zuri suggested softly to Caleb. "The stress of the family affairs must be creating a lot of tension. Faith can heal any perceived anomaly." "That's a wonderful idea, Zuri," Caleb agreed, closing his eyes and bowing his head. "Dear Lord, please bring comfort and clarity to Sarah and Keziah's minds." "Comfort? I can't find comfort in a universe with this structural architecture." Mr. Moose interrupted loudly, slurring beautifully as the paper cup slid off his halo, bounced off his knee, and fell to the floor. He began pacing back and forth in a wide, wobbly circle around the praying couple. "I tell ya, my luck is completely terrible. I went to a local library in the digital sector last Tuesday to find a book on how to be completely organized. The assistant angel looks at me and says, sure, it's in the nonfiction room. I asked him where that room was, and he says, we don't know, we lost the digital blueprint. No respect. The whole system is completely upside down." Keziah leaned closer to Sarah, her voice a frantic whisper as they watched Mr. Moose accidentally execute a clumsy backbend over a low stone bench, landing flat on his stomach with his white wings splayed out like a rug. "Sarah, we have to get him away from the kids. If we start screaming at him, Caleb and Zuri are going to think we belong in a medical facility." "I know," Sarah whispered back, her jealousy and hatred for Keziah completely overridden by the sheer necessity of surviving this comedic haunting. "We have to play along. We have to pretend everything is perfectly normal." Mr. Moose pushed himself up from the ground, a glowing green leaf from the boutique now stuck directly to his nose. He peered at the two women with a wide, dizzy grin. "Don't worry about me, ladies. I'm just conducting a highly scientific safety inspection of the pavement from a vertical angle," Mr. Moose slurred, pulling his halo down around his neck like a bright necktie. "I went to an elite fitness center in the Metropolis this morning. I told the trainer, hey, I want to build up my endurance. He looks at my face, checks my form, and says, George, the only exercise you need is jumping to conclusions. Can you believe the nerve? No respect at all. My mind is like a high-tech database. It just completely locks up when nothing is passing through it." Lily checked her wristwatch, typing in a set of coordinates to end the awkward outing. "Look, the atmosphere out here is getting way too weird. Let's just teleport back to the residential district." "Mom, type in your coordinates." "Yes." "Teleportation. Instantly," Sarah cried, quickly tapping her wrist device. As the flashes of neon light began to envelop the group, Mr. Moose scrambled to his feet, completely bypassed the teenagers, and marched straight up to the camera lens. He locked his wide, out-of-focus eyes onto the screen, gave a sharp, uncoordinated, completely wobbly salute that sent his necktie halo spinning around his ears, and broke the fourth wall with a massive, dizzy smile as the Metropolis vanished into a brilliant flash of electric violet light.